Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Travis on Sports. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these. We're working on some changes to the show a little bit. Obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube, you now see that we have actual video instead of just the transcription of the show running across your screen. We're also going to have some guest appearances coming up. We'll have one later in the show. Um, Turn to a more interview style of giving our opinions and more conversation and debate style method to the episodes. And currently, we're in the process of creating more content and coming up with more stuff to be out there on social media. Today is Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. Like I said, it's been a while since we've done one of these. I don't remember when the last time I put one of these out was. So we're not going to go into every story that came out. That would be impossible. But we are going to hit some of the more recent notable stories later with my guest, and I'm going to start with some minor headlines and stories to begin the show here. We'll start in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens have named 23-year-old forward Nick Suzuki as their next team captain. He becomes the 31st team captain in Canadiens history and the youngest team captain in Canadiens history. In 3 years, he has totaled 143 points and has an all-star appearance, and he was also the team's leading scorer last season. Canadiens have also agreed to a new contract with forward Kirby Dach. Dach was acquired during the NHL draft this past summer from the Chicago Blackhawks for a first and a third round pick. He was a restricted free agent, but now at 21 years old, he signs a 4-year deal worth $13.45 million to remain with the Canadiens after the trade. Other notable NHL news so far this week, or in the recent weeks, defenseman PK Subban has retired after 13 seasons in the NHL at the age of 33. He most notably played for the Montreal Canadiens, but also spent time with the Nashville Predators and the New Jersey Devils. Subban was drafted in the second round in 2007 by Montreal, where he spent most of his career and won a Norris Trophy before he was traded to Nashville for Shea Weber, and Nashville later traded him to New Jersey. Finishes his career with 467 points in 834 games played. He's also a three-time All-Star and won the one Norris Trophy as the NHL's best defenseman. The other retirement is also a notable defenseman, most notably known for his height at 6'9". Zdeno Chara was a much more accomplished player throughout his career, played 24 years with the Islanders, the Senators, and the Bruins. Won a Stanley Cup with the Bruins as their team captain in 2011. Was a seven-time All-Star, also has a Norris Trophy. Played 24 years and retires at the age of 45 after one of the more remarkable, successful careers in hockey. Now we'll move to the NFL with a few key injuries here. If you want to hear more in-depth analysis of NFL and college football stuff, feel free to take a look at my other podcast, The Football Savant, which dives into more details and games from week to week throughout the season, and into the draft and free agency in the offseason. You can find those at any of the resources that you are finding this podcast right now. Steelers outside linebacker TJ Watt, best pass rusher the team has, is expected to miss 6 weeks with a pectoral injury. The team initially feared that the injury would be season-ending, but multiple opinions confirmed that he would not need surgery on the injury, and he is expected to recover and be back sooner than expected. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott suffered a broken thumb in the season opening loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The injury required surgery, and Prescott is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Cooper Rush replaces him as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. 49ers quarterback Trey Lance has suffered a season-ending broken ankle that occurred in the win over the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. It's a big blow to a team that was expecting a lot from its second-year dual-threat quarterback, but luckily they hung on to Jimmy Garoppolo this long instead of trading him like everyone expected, and he's a notable veteran quarterback who's been to a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback with the same team that he is still with. So there shouldn't be much missing from there, and they're perfectly capable of relying on him for the rest of this season. Buccaneers receiver Chris Godwin, who was returning from an ACL tear late last season, suffered a hamstring injury in the season opener against the Cowboys and is considered day-to-day. Also considered day-to-day, but missing last week's matchup with the New Orleans Saints was his teammate and fellow receiver Julio Jones, who was dealing with a knee injury, and he continues to be day-to-day as they enter their matchup with the Green Bay Packers this weekend. Also missing that matchup will be the third of their top three receivers in Mike Evans, who was suspended a game for his role in a brawl that occurred late in that New Orleans game. So the Buccaneers' depth at receiver will be greatly tested on Sunday against the Packers, as their top three receiving targets will likely be missing the game from what it sounds like. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert is dealing with fractured rib cartilage after taking a big hit from the Kansas City defense in the fourth quarter of last Thursday's game. Herbert returned to the game after Chase Daniel took one snap, and Herbert was able to finish the game, and he's considered day-to-day at this point, which gives him a chance to play on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The owner of the NBA's Phoenix Suns and the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury, Robert Sarver, has announced that he is selling both franchises. He bought the Suns in 2004 and has been accused of promoting misogyny and racism in the workplace, to the point where club executives were not surprised when they found out about the whole situation. He's currently serving a 1-year suspension that was handed out by the NBA, and sponsors were threatening to pull their support of the team if he returned from his suspension to resume duties as the owner. In a statement he released, he said, and I'm paraphrasing for the most part here, he said he believed in atonement and making amends, but the current climate made it clear that it would not be possible for him to return to the team. Forbes reports that the Suns are currently valued at $1.8 billion. In the MLB, the Detroit Tigers have hired San Francisco Giants general manager Scott Harris as their new president of baseball operations. He will oversee the front office and has stated in his opening press conference that he will be seeking to hire a general manager under him, but the process has not quite yet begun from what it sounds like. Harris was part of the front office in San Francisco that built a team that won 107 games in 2021, and he was also part of Theo Epstein's front office in Chicago with the Chicago Cubs, who won a World Series during that time frame. He's also known as one of the rising executives in Major League Baseball. As we all know, Albert Pujols is in the midst of his final season. That he made that announcement when returning to the Cardinals, where he started his career at the beginning of this year. The Cardinals are currently in the playoff race and look like they're about to wrap up the NL Central here as the season winds down. While his power numbers have faded over the late stages of his career, had a bit of a resurgence this year, especially after the home run derby, and he now has close to 700 home runs in his career. I believe he's at 698 from the last count. If he does that, he will join the greats Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and Barry Bonds as the only 4 players to hit 700 career home runs. It's just a fantastic way for him to go out and finish his career if he can do it. He's still 2 away right now, I believe. Minor League Baseball has officially unionized. A new union will represent around 5,000 minor league baseball players, and it was a movement that came about and was fueled by many calls for increased salaries for minor league ball players and better working conditions for minor league players. In college football, Arizona State has fired head coach Herm Edwards, the former NFL head coach and former NFL defensive back. Announcement came Sunday morning after the Sun Devils lost to Eastern Michigan at home on Saturday night. Edwards took the job in December 2017. and went 26-20 during his tenure. 3 games into his 5th year at the helm and leaves the team after a 1-2 start. His tenure also included alleged recruiting violations and rumors that alleged that staff members purposely leaked information to opponents in hopes that it may cost Edwards his job. Running backs coach Sean Aguano has been named the interim head coach for the rest of the season. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark earlier this month addressed further conference expansion, especially as it pertains to his conference at the Big 12. While he refused to address specifics in the situation, he did mention that he is looking to expand and, quote, obviously out west is where I would like to go, adding that 4th time zone, a program with national recognition. And then the quote continues on, but that's the important part that I took from that. If you're speculating teams there, obviously Oregon makes a lot of sense there. I think Stanford, for its reputation, makes sense there. They haven't been as successful in football lately, but overall they're a pretty good sports school and they're a great academic institution. Cal, same kind of thing, although probably not as great in the sports realm. Washington does some similar things, as does Arizona State, especially now. It might not have the academic standards necessarily, but it's a well-known school in the Western United States with what has been pretty good athletic programs overall. The Big 12 is set to return to a 12-team conference. Currently, it's at 10 teams, but once Oklahoma and Texas leave and the new teams that are coming in next football season in Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and BYU, they join the conference and the 2 departing teams leave, that will be a 12-team conference once again. And with that, it seems like a good time to welcome in my guest. Today we have TJ Brown, who is a certified personal fitness trainer through the International Sports Sciences Association and also an NBA beat writer for latestbasketballnews.com. And he's a fan of all sports, so we're going to welcome him in and get his thoughts on a few different topics here. TJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate you for having me, Travis.
Yeah, welcome anytime, man. So first, I wanted to pick up with the Big 12 commissioner's comments on the college football expansion. Talk a little generally and about the specific comments he made. So we've seen a lot of that happening. What do you make of the comments he made?
So my take is that he's trying to keep up with the Big Ten and the SEC, right?
Yeah.
So like Big 12, you've got Oklahoma and Texas. They're always relevant football wise. Now we know that all the other sports count, but let's talk about what really everybody's focused on is bowl games, college
Exactly.
football playoffs. That's what everybody cares about, right? So you got the Oklahoma Sooners and then the Texas Longhorns. They're relevant, but they're not Alabama. They're not Georgia. They're not Ohio State, right?
Yep.
And so he wants to be in that category. He wants somebody like that. And then he sees USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. They're going to be there in 2024.
Yep.
So he's like, okay, we got to do something to be relevant here because I only got 2 teams that you can count on every year. Now, Baylor and Kansas are great in basketball. And
Right.
March Madness is okay. That's important too. But we know that the college football playoff is what's really raking in the money. And so he's looking like I only got 2 teams that might make that playoff. I got to get more competitive.
Right. And to that point, Texas and Oklahoma are really the only teams in the Big 12 that are really the national brands, especially when it comes to football. And you see all those other national brands leaving their conferences for other conferences. I think he really wants, he said in his comments, he wants to establish a national brand or grab another national brand. Is there another national brand out there that they can actually grab?
It's going to be tough. I mean, if you think about it, who could he get? Notre Dame's always going to be independent. They're not going to come. USC and UCLA were the 2 that I was thinking. I think everybody kind of felt like they were going to leave the Pac-12 anyway.
Okay.
You kind of see that coming, I feel like, because they were almost bigger than the conference itself.
Yes. especially
You
that TV
know,
market.
exactly right. So you kind of felt like, okay, those two are like almost gonna be free agents, and then it happened. I don't know who else he could lure. Maybe he can steal someone. And here's the sale. Here's the pitch he can give them. So let's say he takes an SEC teams. Okay, I believe
Okay.
the Florida Gators, they're SEC, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
back when Urban Meyer was there, they were, top,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They're not where they used to be. So he could say, hey, if you come over here, even though it's not geographically convenient, you can be the star of the conference. You can be a national brand again. You're not going to be the star of that conference with Alabama and Georgia over there.
Yeah.
You come over here, you're going to get top billing.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm with you. I see what you're saying. But you mentioned, Georgia, Alabama kind of become the class of that conference and really class of the college football playoff for
Right.
most part. So in lately they've expanded the conference or the college football playoff to 12 teams. I guess that's somewhat of an effort to make it more competitive or something. I don't necessarily see. Do you think that's the right way to go? Do you think that was the right number to go with, or was there a different strategy you wanted to see?
I like expanding,
Uh-huh.
but I think 12 is too big.
Yeah, I would
And
agree
the
with
reason
that.
why I say that is like now you're hurting the regular season. Part of what was so fun about college football is one game mattered so much,
Right.
right? Like if you have a team, let's say early in the season, Alabama and Georgia play each other, that game has so much implications. Just like last year, they played each other, I believe, before the national championship game, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yes. Yes.
and so there was an implication there. Everybody wanted to see it. Now you let 12 teams in, they almost feel like, okay, a loss matters, but even if we don't make the top four, we're okay. We have a chance. I think the right number was eight.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes.
I
I
think
would
it should
agree
have
with
been
that.
eight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had another guest on my other podcast that I run. We were talking about the playoff, and he specifically mentioned 8 teams as the perfect number, and everything he listed out there completely made sense to me. I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely the perfect number. So I think there's a majority there that would have liked to see 8 instead of 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that with 12, what they're probably going to do is have a bye for the top four and then
Yes.
have the first eight play and then the top four, you move up from there. But that could potentially hurt the top four. If your guys take an extra week off, and then you got a team that let's just say they just played last week and they're
Yeah.
fresh. You can practice as much as you want. It's not the same as a game.
Yeah. You can't simulate the atmosphere
You
enough
can't
in
do
those
that.
big games.
Exactly. So if you just got done playing a great game versus a team who's been practicing, but you don't want to hit hard because you're getting ready for a bowl game, you might be a little rusty. You might lose to a team you're actually better than.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to overlook teams. Do you think that they're it's going to be more actually going to become more competitive, or are we going to see a lot more blowouts throughout, or like I guess they would be more later if as teams progress through the bracket. But what's your take on that point of it?
I think you're going to see more blowouts because teams are trying to, make a point, right?
Yeah.
Like you see Michigan last week, and I escapes me who they played, but I saw them just running the score up. It was like 52-0 at one point,
Yeah.
right? And I'm
Well,
thinking like, come on, like this is a mercy kill. You know what I mean? But it was like, they feel like they have to do that because they want to rank as high as they can, right? Michigan's like ranked like number 4 heading into that game. And
yeah.
so everybody's thinking about the bowl season from day one, right? And I
Right.
think you're going to see even more of that now because let's say if you remember a few years ago, a team like Cincinnati was ranked
Uh-huh.
like number 5, and they were saying, well, maybe they can get into the top 4, but it didn't happen,
Right.
right? So now, if you know that you just have to make the top 12, they might run the score up on somebody
Uh-huh.
because you have more of a chance now. It's like, oh, well, I need to make a statement. So if you could beat somebody by 28 or by 50, like Michigan did, you're going to beat them by 50. So,
Yeah. So let's switch gears off of that to another league that's been changing, making some changes lately, and that would be Major League Baseball. They've slowly kind of tested this stuff in the minors and bringing everything up with the runner on second to start extra innings. the limiting the mound visits, the designated hitter in the National League, all that.
Right.
So in 2023, they're adding some more changes to the major league level. Let's start with the first one is the pitch clock. They're giving uh pitchers 30 seconds between each batter, 15 seconds between each pitch, and 20
Wow.
seconds between each pitch with runners on base. I mean, obviously there's challenges there, but what exact challenges are there for the pitchers? For does it impact the hitters, and how is it going to change how managers kind of uh, approach how they're handling their bullpens and all that?
Yeah, I really do think it's going to make a big change in a lot of ways. I think number one, the first reason they're doing it, it almost has nothing to do with the play of the game. I think that I heard someone say that when they tested this in the minor leagues, it shortened the length of the game, not as far as innings is concerned, but just overall watch
Right,
time
right.
by about a half hour.
Yes, I
Right.
saw that as well.
So they're trying to make it more like friendly for TV viewers, even though going to the park, everybody loves to go to a Major League Baseball game, right?
Right.
But most people are going to watch the game on TV, nationwide. They want to make that a little bit more user friendly because NFL is just dominating everything.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
so, and during right now we're overlapping NFL and MLB. We can't even compete with the NFL. It's not even,
Right.
you know what I mean. So like,
Yeah.
how do we make this a little bit more user friendly, especially with all these short attention spans nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Because you can just on demand everything, and so how do we, make sure people are tuning into what we're doing? So I think that was the first thing. But as far as the play of the game, there's another aspect that people aren't thinking about. It was the hitters themselves. If they don't get back in stance within a certain amount of time, it's an automatic strike.
Yeah.
And
That's a big
so
thing.
that's huge. And what happened was a couple of times they were trying it out in the minor leagues when they sent a major league guy down to the minors to recruit from an injury, right?
Yeah.
They weren't used to that. And some of those guys were getting called out. They weren't getting back in the box in time. So it's going to be an adjustment, not just for pitchers, also for hitters. They're used to being able to go there, dust their cleats off, and now they got to get back in that box. I think it's going to be good, but it's going to
Yeah.
be an adjustment the first year. I think by year two, everybody's going to be used to it. But we're going to see some goofy stuff year one. I really do think so.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I can see some like I don't 14, 15-year vet or whatever getting pissed at
oh,
the ump for calling him out or something and just
oh, guarantee
throwing
you're going to see a couple
throwing a
ejections.
tantrum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be an increase in ejections. That's what they didn't account for. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I can
Yeah.
few managers come to mind there, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As far as managing bullpens, I think guys are going to get pulled earlier or
okay.
they're going to be a little less tolerant. I believe that
Yeah,
because, you guys got an arm, you're trying to protect the guy's arm, and he can't take as much time as he wants in between pitches. You're going to be a little bit less leeway, especially if you got a guy who you feel like is maybe like a Cy Young candidate.
yeah,
You're going to protect that guy.
yeah. And then I think it's an adjustment for them because for especially for the guys that don't throw or don't get into their pitches as fast, they're gonna get tired a lot quicker. And then you have the bullpen pitchers. I believe the rule is they have to face three batters. Uh,
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
from it's either I think it's three batters or the end of the inning, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's that those two come into play and like play off of each other in a way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All of it's going to tie in. I think the best thing to do is for these guys to make sure they're simulating this in the off season.
Yeah,
Like if you let
spring
them go
training
a
is gonna be
whole
crucial.
exactly spring training, like you have to get used to this in spring training because if you don't simulate this in spring training, it's going to be a train wreck in the regular season, man. It's not going to be
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Another change they're making is basically a ban on the defensive shifts where you have to have two defenders on each side of second base. And I also saw
Right.
something that said it was like their feet had to be in the dirt or something. I'm not sure how positive, like, because I mean, you think about infield playing in, the shortstop and the third baseman aren't necessarily on the dirt if you're playing in for a bunt or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
going to
know
be
how great
subjective.
that is. Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely going to
There's
be
there's
some
some gray area there.
Exactly. It's going to be some gray area like there always is. I think, but this one, this is actually my favorite one.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm definitely in favor of this rule change is because you're going to encourage guys to hit inside the park, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So guys were just like trying to knock it out the park because, of course, everybody who's hitting home runs is getting these huge paydays right now, right?
Yeah.
But the inaction base running, just runs batted in, just get on base mentality was kind of leaving. And I think that's why you see offenses getting hurt because the guys are just like swinging for the fences where years prior, before they started doing this shift, guys were like, okay, let me just get on first base. Let me get on second base. Let me get a run batted in. Now you got guys like, if I'm not hitting it into the rafters, then I'm striking out. And that's
Yeah.
not really what a major league baseball player is supposed to be thinking. You're supposed to be a well-rounded hitter.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to like kind of direct the ball. You don't have to bunt every time. You can maybe like, okay, you see they're stacked to that side, you can hit to that side. Like you're a major leaguer. You're supposed to be able to do that. And I
Right.
think you're going to see that come back. It's going to be a much more well-rounded game. You're going to see a lot more like in action, like double plays, and it's going to be better for the fans. It's going to be a more action-packed game. I like that change.
So do you think it leads to more scoring, even though people aren't trying to hit so many home runs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely more scoring. And the analogy I could use is this, like, they were talking about putting a 4-point shot in the NBA, which would just
Okay.
ruin the game, right?
Yeah.
Because
That would
everybody would
be
just be
atrocious.
pulling up from half
Yeah.
court. Same thing in baseball. Like you want to encourage fundamental baseball. Like when you see these kids that are playing, little league and everything like that, you're not telling them to hit a home run every time,
Yeah.
right? And just because a guy's in the majors and he's, strong doesn't mean he should be trying to hit a home run every time,
Right.
And I think it's going to increase scoring. But you think about it, guys are going to be trying to get on base and bunt and get guys in, not just hit a home run, but actually runs batted in RBIs. You're going to see better all around hitting, I believe.
Yeah. I see that part of it, and I also think that the added scoring is going to come from guys who would generally hit right into the shift because they got the defender right, sitting right on the outfield grass when they want to. Now that they can't do that, that ball's going to end up in there for a hit most of the time, and you're going to have more opportunities to score runs, whether the execution is perfectly there or not.
Right. Yeah. I think it's going to improve the game all around. I agree with that. Yeah.
And then the last change they're making is they're making the bases bigger. I think I don't have the size offhand, but it's not. I don't think it's that big of a change. But what would you say is the point of that? Like I've heard, it's the main one I've heard is it's for like safety, where so like the defenders and the runners aren't colliding into each other as much, or there's more room for them to come down and land
Yeah.
safely. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. But so what I heard was that they're going to change it from 15 inches square to 18 inches square, which isn't
Okay.
huge, which basically I think shortens the time between bases by about 6 inches, which ultimately, I think it's more of a PR move, to be honest.
Yeah, that
Everybody's
sounds like
talking
it. Yeah.
about sports safety and all that. I don't know how much of an impact it's going to make. One thing I would like it to do would be to increase stolen base attempts.
Yeah, I think it could do that.
6 inches less. Hey, that's a lot when you're talking about speed and running. So maybe guys do try to steal a few more bases. That's exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, you see these replays in these games of there are so many plays where just those 6 inches can make a huge difference on whether a guy's safe or out.
Huge,
And
huge
so,
difference.
I mean, it becomes even more, well, I guess less of a risk, but like a more calculated type of play, in a
Yeah.
manager's mind, I think.
And you know what? To that point, good point there. Offense sells, right?
Yes.
And so baseball understands that too. They want the offense up. People would rather see a game that's 7-8 versus a game that's 2-1.
Right. And the younger generation wants a more exciting product, and that's exactly where all these changes are trying to get to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, agreed.
So speaking of MLB, the current season is winding down. I think there's like 10 games left for everybody or something.
Yeah.
The wild for everybody who doesn't know, there's an extra wild card this year, so there's going to be 6 playoff teams instead of 5.
Right.
I'm gonna go quick recap what the picture looks like in the AL, and then we can talk about the AL, and then we'll jump to the NL after that. Um, so Houston has clinched the AL West. Cleveland leads the Central over Chicago by 6 games at the last I checked. The Yankees lead the East by 6.5 over Toronto. And then Toronto, Tampa, and Seattle would be your wild cards right now. I mean, technically Minnesota and Boston are still alive, but there's like 10 games left and they're 9.5 out each. So I think we can rule them out there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then Baltimore's 4.5 out. Chicago is 6 out of the playoffs. So you would have Seattle facing Cleveland, Tampa playing Toronto, and then the Yankees and Houston with bye rounds in the wild card round right there. So I think with the division winners are pretty much set, even though they haven't totally been clinched there. Do you see any of those wild card teams that don't currently have a wild card spot jumping up and challenging any of the teams that are basically there already?
The one that's vulnerable is Seattle.
Okay.
And the reason why I said Baltimore could catch them, now I don't think they will, but I was thinking about Seattle. They have injuries, right? You've got
Uh-huh.
Julio Rodriguez, he's day to day right now. You've got Gino Suarez, he's having an okay year hitting wise, but he's day to day right now. Then you have J.P. Crawford, and no, I'm
Right.
sorry, Gino is actually on the 10-day injured list right now, and
Okay.
he's decent hitter. So down the stretch, you're going to have some important players, and then J.P. Crawford is day to day. He's the shortstop. That's 3 really important players who
Right.
they're used to having in a rotation. If you got to maybe put a different guy in that spot, chemistry's off. They're vulnerable. Now they're 4 games ahead. I think they're going to hang on, but that's Baltimore's hope to me. I don't think that Baltimore is better than Seattle.
Right. I don't think they are either. I think your point's great, and I think Seattle has better pitching than Baltimore does,
Yes,
and that's
agreed.
what comes into play in not just the race into the playoffs, but especially in the playoffs.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think, we're headed for a rematch 2017 ALCS. It's going to be Yankees and Astros again. I think they're the class of the league. But it's going to be fun.
Yeah,
And on a
and
side note, I'm rooting for my man Aaron Judge to go ahead and break that record.
he's close. He's close.
Yeah, I think he's only
He's,
one behind the record, think, right now. I think he's got 60, if I'm not
what my next question was going to be about Houston, New York. You kind of already answered, but is there anybody that can at least challenge them in a series? Obviously, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to beat them in a series, but is there anybody that would give them a hard time and be like, oh boy, maybe we're in trouble here?
uh, You know what? I don't think so. And I know that's like the easy answer, but I think the added motivation is this. These two teams hate each other, right?
Yeah,
And they have history. And then when the Astros scandal came out, the Yankees were making the loudest noise. They were
yeah,
saying, "Oh, they wouldn't have beat us if they hadn't done that," right? Even the Yankees were louder about it than the Dodgers. The Dodgers lost 2 in series, right? Like the
right.
Yankees were madder than the Dodgers were. So I think they had their eye on each other. The Astros are like, if you remember, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day when Triple H was in WWE, and he would just like talk the most trash and everybody
Oh yeah,
hated him, but he would still win. That's how the Astros are to me. They're like the Triple H of baseball now. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
like the Yankees see them and they're like, "We wanted you so bad," and the Astros are like, "Yeah, we got caught, but we're still good, even though we're not doing that anymore." Right?
right, right.
So they're looking at each other, and I just think that they want to win, of course, for themselves, but they want to clash. They want to rematch so bad that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Houston particularly is driven to show that they can win without the cheating stuff in
Yeah,
there because of that. I mean that everybody pretty much thinks that that's how they won the title, even though it may or may
probably.
not be. You're entitled to your own opinion, whatever.
Yeah,
But
they were probably just good enough to win it anyway. But
yeah, they were a talented team. You don't know how much it
yes,
actually helped them.
exactly. Right.
So, all right, so let's jump over to the NL now. We have the Mets and the Braves are currently a game apart in the NL East, and they actually play each other in a 3-game set next weekend.
Yeah.
And then St. Louis is about to clinch the Central over Milwaukee pretty much, and the Dodgers have the West. The the team that doesn't win the NL East is going to get that top wild card spot. And then you have San Diego and Philadelphia in there, but Milwaukee is just 2.5 out of a wild card spot. Um, so who? Let's start with the NL East. Who do you have winning the NL East between the Mets and the Braves?
I've got the Mets winning. And I know the Braves are just coming off a World Series
Uh,
championship, but I think that Freddie Freeman was a huge piece for them.
yep.
And with him going to the Dodgers, you see how well the Dodgers are playing. They're great. You know what I mean? Like Freddie Freeman was a major part of that championship DNA. He's not there. You can't just remove a big piece like that and then be the same. And they're going to play each other. I think that's going to have huge implications. I think the Mets are going to hold on and beat them because I don't think the Braves are exactly the same as who they were last year. I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I would agree with the Freeman assessment. I also think that their start to the season, the slow start they had at the beginning with their offense just wasn't clicking at all, put them in this position, and now they've kind of been chasing all season, and now they're kind of gonna see that they should have worked a little harder maybe, or they may fall a little short. I think that's going to be obviously a great series next weekend, but
Oh, yeah.
I would also say that it's really hard to beat a pitching staff that has DeGrom and Scherzer at the top of it. And that, I mean, Atlanta's got good pitching, but that is possibly the best in the National League, especially
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Right. Yeah.
Just the last thing we'll talk about with in terms of the National League playoff picture is you have those three teams that are in there right now with the loser of the AL or the loser of the NL East, the Padres and the Phillies, and then Milwaukee's just 2.5 out. So you have really three teams fighting for two spots.
Right.
Do you see any changes coming there, or is it
I think it's
is
going to
it
be
San Diego,
San
Philly?
Diego and Philadelphia. I don't see Milwaukee catching San Diego. If there's going to be an opening, it might be because San Diego's missing, and his name is escaping me right now. The guy who got suspended for the PEDs.
Oh,
Um,
Tatis, yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah,
that might hurt him some. Again, when you come down the stretch, you want your horses, you want your guys who you're used to,
and that's their best
and
player. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah. That's
So
their
that's why
franchise. So yeah,
so that's the one that maybe they won't, but I still think they're going to hold on. I don't think Milwaukee's going to out. So I think San Diego and Philly are going to eke out and get those last two spots. They're going to hold on, I believe.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I can see it. I like those offenses a little better than Milwaukee's down the stretch too. So I think that's gonna. Um, so let's jump over to. I know you're big, basketball guy.
Yeah.
With your beat writing and everything. Let's talk about the Donovan Mitchell trade a little bit here.
Yeah.
He was sent to Cleveland for Markkinen, Baji, Sexton, three unprotected first round picks, two pick swaps. So now the question is like, how good can the Cavs be? They have Mitchell, they have Jarrett Allen, they have Darius Garland, they have Evan Mobley. It's a nice solid young core, and then you add an
Yeah.
all-star player in there. How good can they be this season in the East, and then what would take them even further to the next level that they could add?
Well, it's tough, because I believe that the Eastern Conference is underrated.
Okay.
And a lot of people would disagree with me on this, and it would take me some time to explain it, so I'm not going to dive into it deep.
Yeah.
I believe that the East is just as good as the West now, and I got my reasons for that. But you look at Philadelphia, to me, they underperformed last year. We're going to see James Harden and Embiid at it fully healthy. Brooklyn's full of drama, but I don't care. Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant. Like Milwaukee, if Chris Middleton's healthy last year, I'm not sure they don't repeat as champions, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. They
You
really
know,
missed him.
they missed him. And then Boston is just going to come back hungrier. Jason Tatum's 24. I think Jaylen Brown's 25. Like they're super young and they just lost in the finals.
Yeah.
Miami, you can't overlook Miami. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry's going to be healthy next year. He wasn't healthy in the playoffs this year. So I just named a bunch of teams
Right.
that are good. And I haven't even talked about Cleveland yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think honestly, it's going to disappoint Cleveland fans to hear this. To me, Cleveland's best bet is to try to be a top six. Because if you're a top six, then you're not in the play-in. Remember, they have 7 through 10 is play-in tournament now. So
Yeah.
what you really want to do is be top six so that you don't have to be in that play-in tournament. Cleveland now has a chance to be in the top six. I know everybody would have Cleveland fans, if you're watching, you wanted me to say, oh, they're going to be contenders. And no, I'm sorry. Like those other teams I mentioned, to me, are still
Yeah.
better than them. But Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are really solid. Kevin Love is a great locker room guy, former All-Star, can
Hmm.
like a great mentor. You'd love to have him around your organization, regardless. Like that, I think Ricky Rubio is still there.
Oh
Another
gosh.
I mean, hey, but
That's a blast from the past now.
he's past his prime, but he's a
Yeah.
high IQ guy. Like if you have to pull aside Darius Garland for any reason to talk to him, you want him talking to Rubio. Rubio's been there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. So they can be a top 6 seed, but to think that all of a sudden they're going to be like 1 or 2 seed, no. And then I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
even mention Chicago because Levine and DeRozan are coming back. Lonzo Ball is going to be healthier. Alex Caruso is going to be healthier. Patrick Williams is going to play the whole season. So Chicago's a factor because they want to get back to the playoffs again too. So that's
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 teams that Cleveland's going to have to compete with.
Yeah. And it speaks to the depth of the Eastern Conference is built up. And they weren't exactly, one player away from being the superstar team like a
Right.
few of those others are. So yeah, I would completely agree the sentiment of that argument. And on the other side of the trade, what's going on with Utah? What does this do? Where are they going?
It's a reset. I mean,
Yeah.
Danny Ainge, but now give Ainge credit because he engineered 2 resets, maybe 3 in Boston, and went to
Uh-huh.
the finals twice. And you could almost say 3 times because the team that just went this year is one he put together, to be honest with you. Right.
Yeah,
So,
basically.
you know what I mean? Like, he's the person who started the Big Three era when he got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. And
Yes.
this man can see the future. Danny Ainge can see the future. He can, but he will get your draft picks, and then 2 days later he'll have everything. I mean, he's the one that ended up getting Jason Tatum to Boston, but everybody thought Jason Tatum was going to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So this man can pull strings. He orchestrates things well. So I'm not going to doubt Danny Ainge because he's done great things before.
Yeah.
But it's a reset. They're not going to the playoffs this year. I mean, Colin
Yeah.
Sexton is good, but he's not Darius Garland.
Yeah.
Um,
They don't have the star there anymore for anybody. And they loaded off Gobert, they loaded off Bogdanovich this morning. It's
wow.
it's I would say, yeah, it definitely looks like a rebuild there. I don't see them competing out west at all.
No way.
But I mean, strange things happen, right? But that's
That would be like a Mighty Ducks movie, man. That would be a
yeah,
miracle.
District 5. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So do you think that was the right offer to take? I mean, I know the Knicks really wanted him, and the offer that I saw that they had was RJ Barrett, Evan Fournier, Obi Toppin, 2 unprotected first, and then some more protected picks and pick swaps. I would think that the extra unprotected first round pick would drove that package a lot. But what are your thoughts on which package was accepted and which one they passed on?
To be honest with you, I think it was strategic tanking on Ainge's part.
Okay.
Because if you get Barrett and Obi Toppin, and who was the other guy you said was in there?
Fournier.
Okay, Fournier.
Right.
Fournier is very decent too. He's a very
Yeah.
good player. So those 3 guys are decent. And here's the danger in that. You might accidentally make the playoffs.
Okay. Okay. I see where you're going with this
You know
now.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I get those 3 guys, we might sneak in or get in the play-in tournament. And then, he's like, look, I just don't want to be any good. I want to get a lottery pick. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because if you
Gotcha.
get those other guys and they compete, and then let's just say RJ Barrett has a breakout year. He used to be the #1 player in the nation when he was in high school. Most of the time, those guys end up being stars. So if he just all of a sudden comes out of his shell and becomes this all-star, you're like, man, we're back to mediocrity,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I gotcha. You
so
don't
he
want to
was
get stuck in purgatory in any of the sports. That'll kill your franchise.
exactly right. Agreed.
Okay, we're running short on time here. We got about 3 minutes left here. So quickly to the in-season tournament that they've talked about, or it they've confirmed is going forward, correct?
Right.
Is that
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe they did. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, you have the 30 teams in the NBA throughout November playing in basically a pool play type of schedule, and there'll be
Wow.
the top 8 teams going on to play the rest of the tournament in December. All those games are going to count towards the regular season,
Okay.
um, and then the finalists in that tournament would play one more game in the regular season, so they would have an 83 game season, and everybody else
Wow.
would have 82. So what are your feelings quickly on the play-in tournament? And it's going to go into effect in 2023, it looks like. So
Wow. I'm not sold on it. Now,
no,
once it happens, I might be sold because I didn't like the play-in tournament at first, but now
yeah,
I love
okay,
it. So, maybe once it happens, I feel like they're trying to copy off of Eurobasket, and I was watching that this summer with Giannis playing for Greece and Luka playing for his team and Jokic playing for Serbia. I could keep going, and that was a lot of fun. But I think the NBA has to remember that, like, we invented basketball,
uh-huh,
right? Like, America invented basketball, and we're still the best at it. So you don't have to like copy Euro League or Eurobasket or anything. Make them copy you. They're trying to because they got that idea from overseas, but you got to understand overseas they're playing different countries all the time. Like Real Madrid has a basketball team, not just a soccer team.
right,
So they're playing other countries all year long over there. Over here, you're not doing that. It's the National Basketball Association. You're playing in one country, so you don't have to, well, Toronto, but you don't have
yeah,
to do that. You know what I mean?
yeah, I got you.
So I just feel like you don't have to copy them. Great product over there. Definitely great basketball. Love watching it, but it's the NBA is the NBA. I like the tradition.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm not a big fan of the in-season tournament, especially, you kind of have 2 champions that year too, technically. And to me
Exactly.
that's stupid. It's like giving up participation trophies in pro sports. It's
Right.
like it's not where you want to go. It's not where you need to go.
Not at all. No way. No.
All right. Well, that was all the time we have on this episode. Thanks, TJ, for joining us again. You can find more of his stuff at latestbasketballnews.com. Uh, any other spots that I'm missing there?
That's really where I'm at right now. You'll be seeing a
Okay.
lot of NBA stuff from me. So, keep your eyes open for any and all NBA coverage.